Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. I hope you all had a good night's sleep, are rested, are in good health. And for those of you who are not doing so well, our prayers are with you. Please try to stay strong, try to stay cheerful. And if you can, just stick around with us and we will try to keep you informed of what's happening. You are watching the program agenda via Cignal TV channels 8 and 250. And for those of you watching us via facebook.com/One News PH, welcome to the program and kamusta sa mga kababayan living abroad and watching us via the Facebook or social media. You can also watch us through YouTube by entering One News PH. Today is July 20, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, July 2021. Wah, anong naging Tuesday? Tuesday ba talaga ngayon, Arbic? Hindi ba Wednesday? Ewan ko, hindi ko na alam kung anong araw today. But anyway, welcome. And today we are going to have a very interesting interview. One, we will be speaking with the mayor of Cagayan de Oro. As you may know, the Cagayan de Oro is on the watch list for the Delta variant of COVID-19. And after that, we will be speaking with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian because there are growing concerns about all this talk of going back to school in September. Magkakatuluyan ba or postponement na naman? But before we do that, let's go to today's front page or in the Philippine Star. Okay. Front page of the Philippine Star. Okay, they can't seem to upload it, but anyway, I've got it on my trusty iPad, courtesy of my darling wife. There you go. You see that boat there? Well, that's a picture of the Philippine Coast Guard driving away a Chinese military vessel. Mga chupi, alis kayo dyan. But more importantly, the Philippine Coast Guard. Mukhang talagang in the picture sila ngayon aside from challenging foreign vessels in the West Philippine Sea. They are also monitoring two Albay-bound vessels from Indonesia carrying 12 COVID-19 infected individuals. If you remember, in yesterday's interview with Dr. Tony Lechon, I mentioned the fact that there is a tugboat and a barge that came from Indonesia, docked in Butuan City, Misamis Oriental, if I'm not mistaken, and they were tested for COVID-19. Hindi sila pinababa, tinesting sila, which is congratulations to Butuan City. Now, what happened was, of 19 ba yun? 19 all the crewmen, 19 tested positive for COVID. Hindi lang natin alam kung sila ay Delta variant positive. So, but the problem is the tugboat and the barge left Butuan City and decided to go to their home port, which is in Albay. Apparently, the tugboat and the barge belongs to a Filipino-Chinese businessman stationed in Albay. And now the Coast Guard is monitoring the movement of the tugboat and the barge and will not allow them to dock. Those are the strict orders of the Philippine Coast Guard. They will not be allowed to dock and they will have to be tested, all the protocols, all the procedures done before they're given authority to disembark. Meanwhile, as expected, Metro Manila mayors are asking the national government to ban children aged 5 and older from going outdoors. If you recall, last week, the president or the IATF said, okay na, let the kids out. Let them, go to the parks, open spaces, because it's good for their mental health. And we all really want that for our children, or for our grandchildren, for that matter. But the problem is, unfortunately, as much as we all want our children to and grandchildren to make pasyal, the problem is Delta variant has just popped up, reared its ugly head in at least three places in the Philippines, and it is a very bad situation because that's already a serious warning sign that if we don't do what has to be done, if we don't make the necessary sacrifice of isolating, self-quarantine, or etc., baka pati yung mga bata, even our children and grandchildren, could pick up the Delta variant, which is lethal. MMDA Chairman Benhar Abalos explained that persons aged 5 to 17 are potential super spreaders since they are not yet vaccinated. Oh, how true. Because abroad, ako po kasi ang hobby ko ngayon, mag-jump from one news channel to another, international, BBC, CNN, CNA, Bloomberg, NHK, pati yung Korean station, pinapanood ko rin. And it's the common thing is the Delta variant is dangerous, is super spreader, and nowadays tinatamaan mga bata because they're not vaccinated. And finally, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara clarifies that a vice president is not immune from legal action. This after President Duterte claimed that he will run for vice president in 2022 polls to avoid lawsuits. If you remember, President President Duterte gave a speech and he said, yang si De Lima at yang si Del Rosario, Carpio at Del Rosario keep saying na kakasuhan ako pag hindi na ako presidente. O edi sige, tatakbo akong vice president. He said that, former Justice Carpio keeps saying that I will be sued for various cases. Well, I will run for vice president. Well, now the Justice Secretary clarifies that vice president is not immune from legal action. Ang tanong, he also recalled Vice President Leni Robredo being included in sedition charges in 2019, which was eventually dismissed for insufficiency of evidence. Ay nako, please, talangka in my utak, get out of my mind because I'm beginning to suspect that this could be a wondrous web they weave before they attempt to deceive. Okay, the quote of the day comes from the book of Proverbs in the Bible, chapter 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. How can we train up our children if they can't go to school? That will be the discussion later. But in the meantime, let's find out what's happening in Cagayan de Oro, and let's find out how they got hit by this supposed COVID-19 Delta variant. Let's bring in our friend, Cagayan de Oro City Mayor Oscar Moreno. Sir, good morning.
Hi, Cito. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Mukhang nagpa-facial ka. Bumata ka na naman, sir. Looking good. I like your colors. Even the hair looks great.
You too.
Anyway, Mayor, and I always like to cheer up and give a warm welcome to our guests. But I don't envy you in your situation. I already said, siguro nagsisi kang tumakbo ka ng mayor when COVID-19 hit the world. But now you have supposedly a Delta variant case in Cagayan de Oro. What happened?
Yeah. Sito, nung May, we had, nag-umpisa ang itong surge, no? And then, its height was during June, the month of June. And ngayon, bumababa na siya and hopefully, nagpa-plateau na, no? Itong mga araw na ito, no? And then, last Friday, I was informed, July 16, yung isang DOH statement na the genomic laboratory had detected, no, the word used was detected, 6 COVID Delta variant cases in Region 10. 5 of whom are from Cagayan de Oro at isa ang taga Hingoog. Hingoog is part of Misamis Oriental. By the way, Butuan is part of Agusan del Norte. It's to the east of Misamis Oriental. And then, so I met right away with DOH, Region 10, and yung ating main COVID referral hospital, and of course, ating mga city health personnel. So nag-strategize tayo. Doon din sa DOH statement, sinabi din na all of these cases have been tagged as recovered. Those were the words used. No? Now, so we adopted a strategy. Number one, a set of strategies. Number one, lahat itong mga cases na ito, 5 ito, Sito, i-recall natin sa ating TTMF, Temporary Treatment and Monitoring Facility, no? And then yung close contacts nila, so magkakaroon ng retroactive, extensive contact tracing. And so yung close contact nila, yung primary, yung parang high risk, i-isolate din natin and place them in another facility. That was done evening of Friday, Sito, no? And then Cagayan de Oro and Hingoog were placed under ECQ. We were under MECQ, I think, beginning June 1, because of the surge that we were experiencing then, no? And I was asked, Sito, day before, June 16, na dahil magkakaroon na naman ng panibagong quarantine level, I was asked kung makiusap ako na i-reduce from MECQ ang quarantine level or assuming na ganun pa rin, would I request for a lowering? Sabi ko, that time wala pa yung Delta variant na sabi ko, I will not request for kung ano dapat, then let it be. Dahil alam natin na yung level of quarantine is based on the given set of risk assessment tools, no? Healthcare utilization rate, other 2-week growth rate. Sabi ko, maganda na ang ating healthcare utilization rate, nasa 60, that time 65%, 63%. Ang ating other, nasa 8, used to be 15, mataas talaga, no? 2-week growth rate natin, nasa negative na, no? So maganda, technically, GCQ na ang Cagayan de Oro. Pero I will not request na i-lower dahil kailangan ma-sustain natin. Hindi pwedeng instant ang ating adjustment. And then people tend to be complacent, etc. No? Sabi ko, kung tingin ng IATF, dapat MECQ, let it be. Yun pala, because of the Delta variant, naging ECQ tuloy. Although sabi ko nga, Sito, I can understand that dahil kailangan preemptive eh. Itong virus has taught us one thing, na palaging post facto tayo, malalaman natin after the fact, no? I-test pa and it takes time and then mag-recover after some time, no? So you have to be, sabi ko nga, you have to take preemptive ang approach dapat, no? Yung vaccination, for instance, is something preemptive. Yung isolation is also preemptive. No? Kaya sabi ko, okay lang na ECQ, Ang ano ko lang diyan, dapat ang tingin ko lang diyan, kailangan ECQ in order to ensure na wala kang gathering of people, yung mga
Yeah.
spreader events ito, no? Kaya sabi
Mayor,
ko,
yeah.
yes, sir.
Mayor, I'm just curious, and I think a lot of Filipinos watching you now are curious. Have you figured out where the Delta variant originated? Or meron bang, na-check nyo na ba yung movement ng primary patients? At saan sila, did they travel from Indonesia somewhere, Mayor?
Wala pa Sito. Actually, ang index case dito is not from Cagayan de Oro. He is from a neighboring municipality in Bukidnon, no?
Okay.
Pero part 'yan ng yung ating tinatawag na Metropolitan Cagayan de Oro. They're very close
Yeah.
to Cagayan de Oro. Parang taga Cagayan na nga yan sila dahil because of the proximity. Ngayon, doon siya nagtatrabaho sa municipality na yan, pero yung asawa niya, yung wife niya, 37-year-old wife, dito nagre-rent ng apartment sa Cagayan de Oro and is working here in Cagayan de Oro sa isang health facility. And then may kasamang anak, 14-year-old, and then mother-in-law mother nung wife, 62, and then yung kapatid nung mother nung wife, 61, no? Yung apat na yan, Sito, tested positive. And then sila rin yung apat, together with yung index, na detect yung Delta variant. Ito kasi ang procedure kasi is once a week yung regional office ng DOH nagpapadala ng sample doon sa Manila sa genome laboratory sa UP. And yung tinanong ko, yung samples, how are they chosen, and then from what place? The answer was random yan, Sito, no? Random. And siguro, inaano nila kung saan yung search, saan yung marami. Sa Northern Mindanao is composed of 5 provinces and 2 highly urbanized cities, no? And itong May and June nga, medyo tumaas kami lahat, no? Although Cagayan de Oro being the convergent city, ang pinakamarami, no? Anyway, so random yan. Now, doon sa tanong mo, check natin and we are collaborating with the health officials of that neighboring municipality dahil yung index na contact trace namin. Ang maganda nito, Sito,
Yeah.
dahil when the index case proved positive, so ano yan, no? Malalaman yan ng City Health Office dahil may address sa Cagayan de Oro. So instantly, automatically, meron tayong contact tracing and then meron tayong yung extraction. Yung extraction, these are parallel moves. Yung contact tracing is done by our City Health. Now, ginawa ko beginning May dahil naproblemahan ako doon sa Sito, maraming naka-home quarantine, no? Kaya ginawa ko ay reorganized our extraction team and naglagay ako ng non-medical personnel. Ang ano ko lang is operation, kailangan efficient siya. The moment advice is received na positive yung isa, kailangan ma-extract agad, madala sa TTMF. At yung contact tracing, the moment matapos yung ating health personnel sa pag-assess sa risk, identify nila sino yung high risk, sino yung low risk, then another set of isolation follows. And this time, itong isolation Sito, dalhin sa CIU, City Isolation Unit. Ang objective niyan is para ma-isolate lang sila dahil ang sinasabi nga natin, kung close contact yung tao, baka nga naman positive din given the high risk. Huwag na natin antayin na ma-test sila at saka mag-extract na naman tayo, no? So even
So lumalabas, Mayor, yung patients or victims of Delta variant there, isang pamilya lang.
Isang pamilya lang.
Okay. Now, that's I'm sorry, no, you're on the ground. I'm kind of wondering because if the genome sequencing sampling is random, parang it's weird that nasampulan yung isang pamilya by coincidence or isa lang yung na pick up at nag-positive na lahat.
I don't know the answer, to be honest. Yun nga ang gusto kong malaman.
Yeah, because kasi
Nandito
tayo naman, pareho
Yeah.
naman tayo marunong sa mga survey, mga random, hindi ba? Pag random, you get maybe 10 from different barangays, different localities. Eh dito, yung 5 na random sampling, one household, one group, parang, paano nangyari yun?
Yung sample sila nung 5 dahil all of them were detected na merong Delta variant, no? Yung 5 individuals na yon.
Okay.
Tinanong ko kahapon nandito man sila, Secretary Galvez, Secretary Anyo, Secretary Lorenzana, Secretary Duque, no? At ako'y nagpapasalamat na dumating sila. Of course, dahil very disturbing itong Delta variant, no? Kaya
Yes.
ini-explain ko rin sa ating mga kababayan na let's not panic, no? Let's understand why nandyan yung ECQ. Anyway, tinanong si Secretary Duque, dahil before sila dumating, nagtatanong na ako sa DOH Region 10 na ilan ba yung ating genome laboratory? Iisa lang sito, yung sa UP.
Correct.
Iisa lang yan. I was curious, dahil alam mo, nung nag-umpisa ang pandemic, ang aming swab materials had to be shipped to Manila. Wala kaming RT-PCR sito. Zero.
So you weren't able to. I'm sorry, no criticism to you, Mayor, no, but Cagayan de Oro was not able to put up its own laboratory because parang ganun yung naging solution ng many local government officials. What the national government cannot supply, the LGU simply put up on their own kasi parang we're not going to wait.
That's what I did. Sito, bumili ako ng RT-PCR. In fact, 7 natin na RT-PCR, no? And yung 2 sets na una kong nabili, doon ko nilagay sa regional office ng DOH. Dahil meron na silang laboratory, kaso ang laman niyan was gene expert, no? So, nakapag-ano kami kaagad. Within 2 months, after sa pagsabog ng virus, nagkaroon na tayo ng RT-PCR. Dahil yun nga sumulat ako kaagad. January pa of last year, sumulat na ako sa Department of Health asking for RT-PCR. And I followed up. Nung nakita ko na mukhang mahirap, bumili na tayo, no? And then, so far, nakabili na tayo ng 7. Anyway, ito ngang genome laboratory, nagtanong nga ako, can we put up one here? Ang sabi sa akin na medyo mahirap dahil sa you need experts. And meron kaming isang expert dito, kaso nasa Manila siya, si Dr. Salvania. He is from here.
Pag kinuha mo si Dr. Salvania, di wala ng Genome Center.
Alam ko.
Ang sakap naman yan, Mayor. Yung expert na tiga Cagayan de Oro, yun lang ang expert para sa genome. Patay tayo dyan. Okay, Mayor, did you get any commitments from all those general secretaries, etc.? With all due respect, kasi I'm happy to hear that they actually went there. Kasi hindi masyadong lumalabas. Nakakulong din ako dito sa Lipa. Pareho tayong senior citizen. But did you get any commitment? Because what worries us, or me personally, is yung super spreader nitong Delta variant. It was reported in South Africa and in some other areas. Nadaan lang yung Delta variant positive, dumaan lang sa may security yata yun o sa may desk ng tao sa may pintuan, pagdaan niya, ayun, positive na rin. It's that dangerous. Now,
Yeah.
did you get any commitment para magkaroon ng profiling for Cagayan de Oro to find out if you are sitting on a time bomb or not?
Yeah. Actually, dala ni Secretary Galvez, dala nung team kahapon, mga almost 400,000 na doses of vaccines, no? Maraming klase. Meron ng Johnson and Johnson, no? Ang bilin nga ni Secretary Galvez na itong Johnson and Johnson para ito sa yung seniors talaga at saka yung isolated, no? Geographically isolated. Nagpapasalamat ako sa kanila. Actually, kasama ang Cagayan de Oro doon sa NCR Plus, yung 10 na LGUs outside of Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, and Metro Davao, no? Sa Mindanao, we have General Santos, Zamboanga, and Cagayan de Oro. Sa Visayas, 3 rin, Dumaguete, Iloilo, Bacolod, and then sa Luzon, 4, no?
So you got 400,000 doses, pero what about tests or for profiling of Delta variant? Kasi you can have all the vaccines
Yeah.
there, but if we don't know how many of your population are actually positive, hindi lang time bomb, you could be the super spreader of Mindanao. Meron ba silang dalang mga test kits or may commitment on to profile positive Delta variant positive?
Ang ano na lang dyan, sa regional office, padala sila ng mas marami na sample doon sa Genome Center, no? Although, again, Sito, we have to take note na itong finding, ang release niyan was made July 16, no? Or earliest siguro July 15. Dahil alam ko the day
Yes.
before the statement, nagkaroon na ng meeting, no? So palagay mo July 15. Yung date of yung swab was June 26. Na-release ang result June 28, no? Nung yung apat na primary cases, no? June 28. Now, dahil minomonitor ko yan sito kailan ba na-test, kailan na-release ang result, dahil tinitingnan ko kung how long na-extract, after na-extract, no? Dahil sabi ko, meron akong dyan na kailangan within 2 days or 3 days at the most, ma-extract na kaagad, no? Whether positive at saka yung close contact. So nakita ko, ang kagandahan nito, Sito, they were isolated, swab, and the results released. No, they were isolated before they were swabbed. And the result was released. No, ito yung preemptive
Yeah.
na I noticed. No?
Yeah, that's all good. Kasi mission accomplished ka na dyan, Mayor. But ang problema natin baka may mga zombie na naglalakad dyan, hindi pa natin alam. Let's go for a quick break. And when we come back, I'd really like to find out what you're planning to do with that as far as the untested or undetected potential carriers. And also, how are the people of Cagayan de Oro going to manage if you are placed on a full lockdown because of the Delta variant? We'll go for a quick break. When we return, we will bring back Cagayan de Oro Mayor Oscar Moreno here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV, channels 8 and 250, as well as on Facebook. And good morning to our friends at the LTO. We thank you for monitor for watching the program. And doon po sa mga kung sakasakali lang naman, sabi naman ng IP ko, wala siyang nadidinig na tilaok o kwak-kwak. Pagpasensyahan nyo na, no? At tayo po ay nasa farm setting. Let's go back to Mayor Oscar Moreno of Cagayan de Oro City. Mayor,
Yes, Tito.
okay, going back to the more serious stuff. Okay, what are your plans to control yung mga potential undetected Delta variant? Kasi alam mo, ninenervous talaga ako, Mayor Moreno. If you watch the videos coming out of Indonesia, I mean, it's so grim. They lost 1,400 people in 24 hours yesterday. And they had about 50,000 cases in a day. So, o post-positive. Ayaw natin mangyari yan, especially in Cagayan de Oro. So you have no choice but to get tough on the situation, Mayor.
Yeah, nakakatakot nga Sito, kahit ang Dow Jones plunged by 700 points dahil sa Delta variant scare, no? And minomonitor din natin, and sa akin lang we had a surge that started May, and the height was in June. And sa akin Sito, sabi ko nga, I pray na itong Delta variant, yung report, yung detection ng Delta variant was like a news that is given long after the event had taken place, no? Na sana we had succeeded in stemming the spread, the transmission of the variant, no? Although alam natin na talagang mas transmissible siya, and talagang delikado, no? Kaya nung nakita ko yung report, every day kasi Sito, meron kaming daily press briefing, and I look at each case doon sa contact tracing report, saan nakuha, anong comorbidity, and then yung short history, as far as they can get, no, na relevant. Kailan na-extract, nalagay sa ICU, nasa hospital ba or what, no, anong status. And nakita ko parang, wow, nadaanan ko na ito nung June. Kaya ang laking relief nung nakita ko yung apat Sito, yung pamilya, members of the family, na they were extracted, they were classified as high risk within mga 2-3 days yan after the father tested positive. So na-extract na sila, nalagay sa city isolation unit, and then na-swab sila after 3-4 days. And then the result was released after 1 day, positive silang lahat, no? And then nalagay sa TTMF, and then yun nga, nag-recover na. Now, merong isa na naiwan dahil gusto talaga na merong result na negative, no? And mabuti naman na when the news came out, they were still within our reach, no? So we asked them right away to go back to the facility, and siyempre they had to be told na Delta variant, no? Merong detection. So, nag-cooperate din sila Sito, no?
But kamusta naman sila, Mayor?
Okay naman.
May mga sakit ba? Wala naman? Or normal lang ang kondisyon?
One was vaccinated, yung health worker.
Okay.
Vaccinated siya. And then, all the rest were not, no? Pati yung dalawang senior citizens, hindi pa. Kaya ito yung sometime, like I said, mga middle of June, no?
So kumbaga, so in other words, they naagapan. It was addressed very early before it got worse. Now, the
Yes.
question is, what about the contact tracing? Kasi the DOH, the IATF keeps talking about up to the third
Third.
sector. Now, in terms of contact tracing, were you able to trace up to the third level?
Well, kahapon, the report was given, meron ng primary, secondary. And third level, third degree is now being worked out. Although, of course, doon sa third degree, medyo ano na yon yung talagang low risk na. No? But again, we do appreciate na kailangan talaga ang contact tracing. In fact, ang isa pa rin na what I'd like to believe is a blessing. Ang ating epidemiologist dito, Sito, magaling. And he is one of the most senior dito sa region. Ang worry ko nga dahil sinabi niya sa akin na magre-retire na siya in April next year.
Sabihin mo, nagre-retire, nadadali ang buhay para hindi mag-retire. Ganon lang kasimple yan. Ang dami akong kilalang nag-retire. Ayun, rest in peace ang inabot. But Mayor, pasensya ka na, no? Kasi
Pagod na Sito dahil every day, he manages the contact tracing and
yeah.
risk assessment and
I'm
profile.
sorry. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for him because God gave him all the abilities and all the talent and he should keep on. Sabi mo mag-exercise na lang siya, mag-zumba siya sa umaga para lumakas siya. But Mayor, going back to the serious concern, aside from getting 400,000 doses of vaccines, sending out more samples to the region for genome testing at the DOH Region 10, what about financial, logistical support for the people of Cagayan de Oro? Because parang yun yung concern ni Rufus Rodriguez, congressman for na padala nyo naman kami ng pera at walang kakainin ang mga tao dito if we shut down for 15 days.
Yeah. Tama po yan. Pero alam mo, natanong nga din yung sulat niya, no? Anyway, of course, inaano natin Sito, part na yan. Nung Sabado, nag-usap kami mismo ng regional director ng DSWD. And of course, kailangan yan ayusin yung system, no? In fact, sinabi ko nga na doon sa ating team na we have to review the listing, no? Dahil, government tends to be repetitive, no? Kung anong ginawa mo, yun na rin ang gagawin mo sa sunod. Sabi ko, parang ang duda ko dyan, parang may mga suki-suki na yan, no? Kaya sabi ko, you have to reach out, tinan, i-analyze sino ba ang apektuhan. Of course, maraming jobs had been held suspended, no, at least. And kaya ang sabi ko rin kahapon Sito, dahil nung Sabado, grabe ang checkpoint doon sa ating borders, no? Particularly, grabe talaga. Sabi ko, naintindihan ko yung pero dapat anuhin din natin dahil ang nangyari sa sobra ng checkpoint, nagkakakumpul-kumpul tuloy ang mga tao. Ang pila, ang haba, no? Pati motorsiklo, sabi ko dapat i-calibrate din. Ang importante is yung ECQ, while border control is important, no, pero dito kasi sa Cagayan de Oro, it's a convergent city. We have to understand. Marami na nagtatrabaho sa Cagayan de Oro are from the neighboring municipalities.
You're a hub.
Ang hirap, ang hirap Sito, no? Although, anyway, sabi ko lang, Yung checkpoint, okay lang yan. Ang importante dyan yung triaging, yung merong yung naka-face mask, face shield yung mga tao. Pero meron kasi isang report na hiningian daw. Kahapon lumapit sa akin si General Anduyan, ang regional director dito ng PNP, dahil nabanggit ko during the press conference na merong nagsabi na may police daw nag-require na kailangan may swab test result, no? Kaya sabi ko, hindi naman dapat gano'n. Sabi niya, nilecturean na niya lahat ng mga tauhan niya. So, tulungan lang. Ang
Okay.
importante sa ECQ is na walang yung mga events that are spreader, yung gatherings that are super spreader, no? So, mga malls, mabuti nga, hindi sinara ng mga malls ito dahil nandyan yung ating vaccination.
Okay. Well, it seems,
Ako sa
yeah.
mga malls na keep your at least groceries open and please keep your malls open para wala nang mga tindahan. Kaya sabi ko naman, yung mga tindahan, actually, tanong ako, are we going to be very strict doon sa mga tindahan? Sabi ko, alam mo, ang mga tao nag-iingat eh. Yung may-ari ng tindahan, kung wala namang bumibili, ba't siya mag-open pa?
Okay.
No?
Well, it seems, Mayor, that you are in control. The city officials and all the people are cooperating. So I guess all we can do is pray na that was one isolated family that had Delta variant. The big question is how did they get it? Kasi syempre, variant yan. If it evolved somewhere, there is no reason why it cannot also evolve in the Philippines. Sabi nga,
Precisely.
mutation
Precisely.
mutates. Anyway, thank you very much, Mayor Oscar, and I hope that all goes back to normal and siguro sacrifice na natin for 2 weeks. But God be with you and all of the people of Cagayan de Oro. Thank you again for your time, and we are reassured that the officials of Cagayan de Oro are taking good care of the situation. Thank you, sir.
Salamat, Tito. Thanks for having me. Final word ko lang sa aking mga kababayan, let's not panic.
Yun. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that's Cagayan de Oro City Mayor Oscar Moreno, and ayun, maganda naman kasi they're doing, as the good mayor said, we just repeat. You go back to what worked before, and if it doesn't work, then you change the mode. But anyway, let's move on to our next guest today, and none other than Senator Win Gatchalian, regular on agenda. Senator Win, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cito. Magandang umaga sa ating mga viewers.
Okay, top question for you this morning from many viewers is, are you supporting, do you believe that we can open up schools come September?
Well, Cito, come September, classes will open. Now, in what form is still a big question mark. Although we want to pursue face-to-face classes, but I'm approaching this with a lot of caution. No? Precisely from what I heard earlier, Mayor Oka. Mayor Oka is a veteran mayor, a veteran public servant, and I can sense from his voice that we have to be very cautious, not to panic, but very cautious with the situation now. So, in short, Cito, we will have class openings. It will be most likely in the form of distance learning, meaning we will use modules. But I'm still hoping that the situation will get better by that time. And if it gets better, then we can launch a few pilot schools using or going back to face-to-face in those areas.
Okay, Senator, we've been talking about those pilot face-to-face schools, but to date, we have not seen even, well, I don't know about you, but I have not seen or heard of one actual unit or model that was put in place to try it out. Have you seen a model, a working model that was put in place?
DepEd has been preparing for this for quite some time already, and I've seen the protocols that they have put in place. However, the actual pilot schools, not yet. No? And this is precisely because of the very uncertain situation. The situation is very hard to predict. For example, when we had this interview, I think first part of the year,
Yeah.
there were about 500 LGUs which had zero COVID. But now I looked at the latest numbers, we only had 157 LGUs. So from a high of 35% of all LGUs that have zero COVID, now we only have 10%. Bumaba siya because of the situation. So in other words, the situation is really very difficult to predict. However, some of the areas admittedly have zero COVID, which personally I think we can launch pilot schools there. But again, no, we're facing a very difficult situation because of the unpredictability of the virus.
Okay. Yesterday, I picked up news from Singapore. Yeah, I believe it is Singapore. They will be vaccinating 650,000 high school senior students and the teachers of that group who will be taking the national college entrance exams in Singapore. So what they did was they made the program. Let's vaccinate those who will take the exams and who will be proctors to the exams, so these kids can do it, and we don't have to worry about infections. Now, 650,000 is a small number, but I think it would also entail a smaller number for these pilot schools. Kasi parang, there's already PBA bubbles. There are, certain volleyball bubbles, I think. But ironic that we're doing it for professional sports, but not for schools. Now, I won't go into the 17 below, okay? But we need to start somewhere.
Yeah.
What's your thinking on this?
Sito, two things. No, number one, I'm lobbying very hard to get the teenagers vaccinated. This is a question of supply. But I'm lobbying very hard to get that study and the protocols up already. So by the time we get enough supply, we can really vaccinate teenagers. And this is a very crucial step in going back to face-to-face classes. So a lot of countries, particularly the United States, some European countries, started vaccinating their teenagers, and this is a crucial step. Number two, our schools here in the Philippines is, in my opinion, is a small economic community. If you go inside the schools, there's cafeteria and canteen run by concessionaire. When you go out, there are also canteens, tindahan, sari-sari stores. There are also tricycles that bring the students back and forth. So it's a small economic community. I can see the logic on why the president is quite hesitant, because it can be a vector for the spread of the virus, because a lot of activities go around the school. And the students don't just go to school and go out. They go to school, they eat, they go out, they buy, and there's a lot of activity going around school opening. So the president is very cautious with that. The kids might not get infected as fast, no, as science says, but their parents, the shopkeepers, mga sari-sari store owners, they might be susceptible to the virus spread. So that's why that's why the approach to school opening should be very cautious. And the step forward to that is the pilot schools in zero COVID areas. No? And this is, again, something that is quite uncertain. I was telling you earlier, before there were about 500 schools, now there's only 150 schools. So again, the situation is changing quite rapidly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's commendable that you are pushing for the teenagers to be vaccinated, because that is the direction being taken by the European countries, by the United States and Canada, because they're also discovering that it is their unvaccinated young adults that are now landing in the hospitals, because hiding them in the homes isn't going to protect them when you have adults going to work. Now, going back to the topic of education, evidently we have a problem with health workers because we don't have any left. Kumbaga, nagkaubusan na, and one of the reasons being blamed is that many schools were shut down by the CHED as their only solution or their immediate solution for bad quality graduates. Now, everyone keeps talking about bad quality graduates, bad nursing schools, but no one is talking about how do we restart this sector, and what do you think the CHED should be doing? Because medyo nakaka-frustrate na ako. May isang scholar, naghahanap pa ako ng kung saan matinong eskwelahan. I mean, you would think that in this country, all schools should be of equal quality, but I have to actually call a director of a local hospital, boss, saan ba tayo pwede magpaaral ng nursing?
Yeah, well, this pandemic created a lot of complications, and for med schools, Cito, it created a double whammy situation. Number one, we urgently need medical professionals, and the medical schools are the producers of these medical professionals. But you cannot produce medical professionals by mere online learning. They have to go and do apprenticeship. They have to go to the hospitals to practice what they learn. A lot of their education comes from hands-on or apprenticeship modality. So it's important for them to practice and to get their hands dirty. And the pandemic closed a lot of our schools, and a lot of our medical students cannot practice. So what's good now is CHED has opened a few months back already face-to-face learning for medical professionals or for medical students. And precisely, they realize that we will be experiencing shortage of medical professionals if we don't produce medical professionals. So a good example will be here in Valenzuela. Fatima School opened their Fatima's big medical school. They opened their face-to-face classes already. They really practice high standard health protocols, meaning the students wear PPEs, they practice social distancing, they have alcohol and temperature measurements all over the campus. So it's possible.
Fatima is recognized as a good institution when it comes to health-related education courses. Now, we'll go for a quick break, Senator, and when we come back, let's continue with this discussion because yun po yung tanong eh. How do we restart the rest of those schools? And is there a possibility, kasi nga may shortage tayo ng health workers, is there a possibility of finding parang internship, OJT, or re-education hands-on for doon sa mga hindi nakapasa? Kasi, di ba, they went through the course, but they didn't pass the licensure exam. And we have no nurses, pero maraming mga hindi pumasa sa board na doing nothing. We'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, back here on agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and joining us this morning is none other than Senator Win Gatchalian. Senator Win, we're back now. My question was, what can be done so that we have good nursing schools that are started up again? And can we consider yung mga hindi pumasa, those who failed the nursing licensure exams to be placed on a parang training status, etc. I'm sure you get what I mean, but
Yeah.
what can we do about that?
But
Kasi
Sito,
may shortage.
two things, Sito. Our economy needs to rev up and the nation needs to continue moving. And in order to do that, we need professionals, we need graduates from college, or else we will not have a competent workforce to rev up our economy. So colleges should already start. And as an example that it can happen is Fatima, where they practice very high standard of health protocols. So CHED should already allow face-to-face classes in tertiary education, provided that these tertiary education institutions should practice high standards of health protocols. And it's possible. And again, I keep on repeating Fatima because I've seen their facilities and how they practice health protocols.
Would you support an arrangement where colleges can open up if the national government, or parang teamwork between the DOH, IATF, and the colleges or tertiary schools for vaccinating their people and enrollees? Kasi yun lagi ang binabalikan ni DepEd Secretary Briones. We can do face-to-face if everyone is vaccinated. Now, that's not a huge population, but it would be an ideal situation to give them vaccination upon enrollment.
Yeah. First of all, the college students are already allowed to be vaccinated. No? They're part of the A4, A5, and they are 18 and above already, so they're allowed to be vaccinated. And what's important right now is for the colleges, for the higher tertiary education institutions to practice very strict protocols. That's the key.
Yeah.
Strict
Yeah,
protocols.
pasensya ka na, Senator, no? Kasi I go around here like you do, and maraming 18 and above, maraming colleges, college-level students na, they're still waiting in La La Land. But if we actually have a program, vaccination program for enrollees in colleges and the teachers, maybe we will get this ball rolling because I'm on the same page as you're in. We have the same goals. Eh sabi ko nga, pag hindi natin to, kasi parang basketball, talagang tinrabaho nila. They really worked at it and they got it. And I think the same should be done for colleges.
That's a good idea, no? To give a special vaccination program, a special vaccination program to colleges, professors, and even basic education teachers. Again, the goal here is to get as normal as possible, to reach normalcy as quick as possible. And that will only happen if we vaccinate them. And I do agree with your idea to give this special program so that sila lang, nakatutok lang sa kanila. And we can roll out the vaccination program to colleges very quickly.
Sige, mag-advisor na lang ako sa'yo pag nag-vice president, ka na. Pero last question ko na lang, last minute. Ano ba yan talaga, Senator Win? I was under the impression that you're running for re-election as a senator, but ano na naman to, biglang may vice president talk about you. Are you re-electionist or what?
I'm a re-electionist ito, but I'm open to running for the vice presidency position. And the reason for that is 20 years na ako, Cito, in public service. And I've been to both sides, executive and legislative side. And I have enough experience to implement reforms. And my view is if you want to implement quick reforms, you have to be in the executive side. So I've been in the legislative side for 9 years already, so it's about time to go back to the executive side.
Well, I mean, if anyone would be the right choice, you would be the right choice, and I would support that. But personally, Senator na lang muna tayo. Marami ka pa rin nagagawa. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Senator
Sito.
Gatchalian.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Sito.
that's our friend and who we support, Senator Win Gatchalian. Lagi pong available, laging naasahan. And we hope that some of the ideas we discussed here on agenda will be picked up. And if you are one of those in those parties, push for it. Push for vaccination of college students and college professors and lecturers, just like they pushed for basketball bubble programs. I'm your friend. I'm your kuyang. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. Thank you for joining us. It's been a good day. God bless all of you. Continue praying and keep it here on channels 8 and 250 of Cignal TV. We are One News.